Well, we are live. We're a little early, or I guess we're kind of a week late, aren't we, Matt? I guess week late,
That
10
too.
minutes early.
That
That's how
too.
we roll over here. Yeah, But we're here. We're glad to be here with you all. This is Kevin and Matt. We're not really doing Monday mornings anymore. We might change that up. Honestly, we kind of like the live show because we like having you guys
I
here
do.
with us. It just kind of makes it a little more fun. It's a little later for me. It's kind of 11 o'clock, but it's okay if I do it once a week. I can survive an 11 p.m. podcast once a week for Matt, just for Matt.
Correct.
You're my bro.
Correct.
Yeah, exactly.
Is it?
But
Is it?
but you
Is I was just
go
curious,
ahead.
Kev. Is it hot over there? And is there summer? And
No,
is it
dude,
comparable?
it's
Oh
rained
no.
for like a
Where are
month
you
straight.
Fahrenheit wise? Fahrenheit wise, don't use Celsius. Where are you Fahrenheit wise?
Today was probably 60,
Ooh,
65
I'm
maybe.
jealous. I like that.
Under 70 for sure. Yeah.
I much
Not in the
prefer that
summer
to the
though. Not for
we.
weeks. Oh, I
Nah,
hate
I know
rain.
you're right. You're right. But we had a streak. I guess they consider a heat wave 3 days of 95 or 90 plus, one of those two numbers, and we hit it again here in New England. And you feel
Dude.
gross outside. I just don't. I'll
Yeah.
take cool weather any day. Any day. Not everybody
See, I'm a
agrees,
summer
but
boy. I'm a summer boy. I'm happy with 90 degrees for a while.
yeah,
That's
it's nice
all right with me.
if you can be outside at the ocean or the lake, but to Puerto Rico, it's not cold there.
No, probably not. Hi, Sonia. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's probably slightly warmer than also in the Northeast. It's funny, Matt. Whenever I've been seeing a lot of Tom Brady things on Twitter lately. I think the Twitter algorithms are so ridiculous. Like if you spend like two
Yeah.
seconds on a video, it'll just the next
That's
10
it.
things, 8 of them will be the same.
Flooded.
It's ridiculous. It's absolutely absurd. Yeah, it
Yes.
drives me crazy. No live feed. Are you guys not hearing us? Sonia, do you hear us? Oh, there's no video. No, we don't do video because
Oh,
Matt works with the CIA, so we can't show his face.
correct.
Sorry, guys.
Very true.
You know,
Very true.
next
Very
time
true.
maybe.
Very
Once
true.
Matt
Very
retires from
partial
the
here.
CIA, we will do a big reveal. Promise.
That is correct. I have access to a lot of secret information. I can't just be
Yeah, I know.
broadcasted live. I know who killed John Kennedy.
That would be amazing. Man, someday I hope I'll meet him.
So
I'll just have a friend who will just be like, actually, I do know. Wouldn't that be cool? Now that you bring it up,
it would
that'd be pretty nice.
would be. So our topic, I was thinking about this a lot, Kev, because I knew we wanted intentionally. I think we wanted this last week,
Yeah.
and things just kind of didn't work out between the days, and it was Wednesday, and then we're like, all right, let's just scratch it. So I really took a lot of time to think through the movement. Really, I don't know if you can call it a movement, but there are people who, and I'm sure this happens every day. In fact, I'm sure it happens to people at my very chapel who um, stop adhering to the position, the theological conclusion of sedevacantism, and they return to the Vatican II religion, whether that be in their diocesan Novus Ordo parish, the Institute of Christ the King, the Fraternity of St. Peter, the SSPX, or whoever. And we wanted to be clear, and we talked about this before we hit the live button here, that we don't want to call people out or reply to
No.
certain people's tweets or things that they've been saying, but just a general discussion about the topic, because I know for a fact that there have been people who spent time with us at my chapel who have just gone back, and I think everybody's story is different. Everybody's experience is different. Everybody's past is different. One thing that I thought of, Kev, while running through all of the possibilities in my thoughts, is that somebody like you, who's a cradle sede, I hate that phrase because you would just say you're a Catholic,
Catholic.
but
I'm a Catholic, darn it. Yeah, exactly.
right. But you've been in that movement, or that this has been your life,
Right.
and it's what you've known, and it's what you, by the grace of God, have grown up in and experienced. Whereas I have had a very, 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 very different experience. That I haven't even truly gone into all the details, because it would be impossible to outline and discuss and give full. I don't even remember it all, because you think it's been decades for me in the Novus Ordo, and I
Sure.
not only did I just go to Sunday liturgy, but I was involved with groups, with teenage groups, with traveling and retreats and bus trips, and I was entrenched in it so much that it took up summers, and I had a small job in it, and everything. There's just so much to compile and to discuss. Um, but I think one of the main points that I wanted to kind of hammer home first, and you can comment on this, Kev, as well. But you never really have or have had any experience with Novus Ordo clergy or hierarchy or people, and someone who has been involved in, even say not sedevacantist, but just a more so traditional, maybe upbringing with a society, as a lot of people do. Going to the Novus Ordo is an extreme shock. And I'd like to talk a little bit about that in a minute, but any thoughts, Kev, first, how your experience with this has not been any has had any exposure at all to
Right.
these men?
Yeah, and I think so. As you say, I mean, it is one of those things. It's good that we keep it, kind of vague and not personal and whatnot. And I think that and I've thought about this a lot over the last week too. And really, the big conclusion I came to is that if I were to leave this position that I hold, that we've not had a true pope since 1958, I would become an atheist before I would become a Novus Ordo. I just would. I'm sorry. I cannot wrap my head around it. I cannot see how you could possibly understand the faith of our fathers and then come to the conclusion that Jorge Bergoglio was the Pope. It doesn't compute. It's 1 + 1 = 5. I'm sorry. It just doesn't work. And I know I get it. People have a hard time coming to that point. It's a long road, as you had, which I totally understand and I sympathize with. But for someone to go back to the Novus Ordo, I don't get it, Matt. I'm sorry. And I've really thought about this a lot this week, and I don't understand it. I would sincerely rather not believe in a God than believe that God gave us a church that can spew out Jorge Bergoglio as its head.
So let's think about this first, because my experience for decades on end was Novus Ordo, and now the Novus Ordo is what led me out of the Novus Ordo. I think it wasn't so much as any more search for truth, other than it was like, this cannot be it. People have no idea. If someone like you, Kev, who has never experienced it, other than, I know you said you've traveled across some churches in Germany and have seen certain things, but when you live it and make it your day-to-day sort of faith, it is unbearable. I can list time and time again of horrible experiences of liturgy. One thing that came to my mind is I've forgotten over the years as to how loud it is when you walk into a Novus Ordo church. It is loud. People are there to socialize. It is I'll use the word chaotically loud at times, depending. You might find a good Novus Ordo priest. You might find a good Novus Ordo parish. I'm sure they exist, where they're a bit more conservative, but for the most part, there will be abuses in those, even more so, quote unquote, conservative parishes. But it's really so bad. If you think for a moment that any of them, and I truly mean this, truly care about heresy and schism and liturgical abuse and sacrilege, you are kidding yourself. You might find this conservative priest somewhere in the diocese who agrees with you, but he has to be silent about it. He cannot speak to the clergy, or I'm sorry, to the laity about this, because he will be disciplined. I've been there on more than one occasion where I've seen clergy give somewhat, and I'll use the term somewhat Catholic sermons, and they were reported for it. They were reported by parishioners. They were told, you can't say this, we don't want to hear this. This isn't something you should be talking about in front of us. Hell, for example, we can't talk about hell. And they were reported to the bishop, and the bishop, two different bishops, this is not just one man who I'm talking about, summoned them and said, you can't talk about this. You can't say these things here. Do you want your job? It really boils down to that. And which is why I think people who they're so used to sound Catholic doctrine in the traditional movement here. You know, when I go to mass now, I'm not worried about any liturgical abuse. I know what I hear from the
Right.
pulpit will be solid Catholic. It doesn't mean the priest cannot err while he's speaking. Sure, that, I mean, it could happen to anybody, but you know, you're going to get authentic Catholic teaching here. The junk that pours out from these pulpits, I have been across the state. I have been across multiple states, and it's everywhere. So to think that, well, you're just so used to this sound Catholic doctrine that you have no idea the absolute junk, the heresy, the blasphemy you will endure constantly, because this is what it is. For people who have not lived in it yet, it is a cesspool of rot. It is so bad that words cannot articulate the horror that people who go to it after never having lived in it will return to. You can find refuge in the Institute. You can find refuge in the Fraternity of St. Peter and in the Society. That's a whole other argument. Those are whole new cans of worms. Your local Novus Ordo parish is a disaster. And
Well, that's why
I
they
can
lose
just
people constantly, right? Too, right? For the last 60 years, the numbers of people attending mass, or quote unquote mass, have gone way down. And again, what is it? Something like, is it 12% of people actually believe in the true presence? I think it's 12, wasn't
oh,
it?
it's
We talked
very
about that at one
small.
point. It's something like that.
Very
It's
small.
under 20, I think. And it's just like, these are the types
And
of things
that's,
but I say
do
I
you
feel
know,
sorry for them, because like someone in a Novus Ordo parish, I think typically they just learned Novus Ordo catechism. They've been grown, they grew up into the entire thing. And
mhm.
I don't blame like that. I don't want to sound like, hey, I'm just like, hey, you're a bunch of idiots and you all should be atheists. That was not my point. I'm saying I'm saying for the people, especially who know all these things, as you said, people who have gone to traditional liturgy and understand that they do have the valid sacraments, then to take a step backwards and go back to the Novus Ordo.
Mm.
Oof.
I think yeah, I do have some things to say about that, but first, just to kind of to finish, I I've thought of a few examples of mine that I experienced. There will be abuse and irreverence, no matter how reverent, so-called reverent, the church is. It's just overflowing with this sort of stuff. The amount of clergy who have given me the silliest type of confessions, where I have had a priest, and this is so again, this is not one parish. I'm talking about different cities, different locations, where one said to me, what do you want confession for? That's from 50, 60 years ago. We don't really do that anymore. I had another say to me, he heard it. I went to him and confessed, and then he said, "All right, well, have a nice day." And then I said, "What? Isn't there absolution? Like, isn't there a formula you need to say to absolve me of my sins?" And he asked me, "Why would I want to hear that?" And I remember, I can still remember getting in the car and calling another parish on the phone. I Googled the phone number, and I said, "Can I had a bad experience. Can I come to you?" I had another moment where I confessed my sins, and the priest put his hands out over me and began to speak in tongues. And I don't know what that was. And
Yikes.
multiple times I have written superiors about this experience. I went to confession. I was told, "Why do you want that?" I went to confession, and the words of absolution were refused to me, not out of questioning my contrite contrition, but because I was told that that's old fashioned, or all that. And nobody cared. No, nothing happened. I've written bishops. I've written head of diocese here in the state, that like some of the priests here, they are heads of multiple parishes who have merged. Nobody cares. All this stuff is they're worried about compassion and fraternity and friendship and being a friend and loving Jesus, as they always say, and that's it. Being nice. It's so void of anything. And I am looking at the comments here. There's nothing blackpilling about this at all. It is far worse than what I am saying here. Far worse. Um, I'm just expressing the reality of it. It's that bad. And for people who have never lived it, um, you'll start to tally all of the bad things that you see. Communion in the hand will be rampant. You can't stop that. It's permitted. No one's going to say you can't do that here. The priest might have rules no communion in the hand at this parish. All it takes is for somebody to complain that, hey, I went to receive communion, I put my hand out and I was refused. That priest will have a nice little meeting with his bishop. It's just the music, the chatter, as I mentioned earlier, the talking during mass.
Be honest though, Matt. Do you miss the kiss of peace?
uh, there was no there. Maybe you don't.
No?
There is no kiss of peace. There's
Or
the
what
sign
is
of
it?
peace.
Isn't there the thing where you're supposed to go and like?
No, that's the sign
Really?
of peace. Yes.
Ah.
See, you're so inexperienced.
Sorry.
No, in the so for people who don't know, in the solemn, they don't do it in the low mass, or I don't even think misa, the misa cantata mass, but in the high mass there is the kiss of peace, in which you put your hands on the shoulder. Only the clergy do this, by the way. The laity don't do this. You put your hands on the shoulders of the other clergy,
Really?
and
I've heard that. I heard that the laity do it sometimes. I saw people on
if they
X
in the Novus
complaining about
Ordo,
it.
if they do it, they're just, it's just cultural, like how Italians or Spanish would kiss on the cheek. No, the priest would say, "Let us offer each other a sign of peace." And oh man, it's supposed to be so.
See,
What we
Sonia's
used to do.
with me. Sonia's with me. They do it. See, there's a hug of peace. I've seen this before. I've seen like videos of it. Maybe it's cultural.
Maybe people,
Spanish.
maybe people do that. Maybe people hug each other, but I have never, and I've been to a real lot, in many different men. I have never heard a hug or kiss of peace. Always the sign of peace. Let us offer each other a sign of peace.
It could always get worse.
But they could always get worse. What we used to do when I was young, is you would shake hands with your family. So you would turn to your parents or your siblings or whatever, you would shake their hand. The people in front of you, you would shake their hand. The people behind you, you would shake their hand. Different parishes did a little bit differently. I went to one where one guy, he would run out of his pew and like shake everybody's hand across the whole church. I've seen the priest come down off the altar and start shaking people's hands in the first row. I mean, I've seen kissing, like I've seen people do that. That's another thing though, Kev. To bring the noise down, it gets quite loud for not every time, but I've seen it get quite loud. And remember, now I got to take myself back. I think after "Let us offer each other a sign of peace," it's the Lamb of God. Agnus Dei in Latin. You go right to the Lamb of God who takes away the sins of the world. Have mercy on us. Sometimes it's so loud because see, Sonia is right. I that's my experience as well. It's so loud from people talking and being so happy that they see one another that you don't even hear the priest saying "Lamb of God" on Agnus Dei. It's so muffled out because it's so loud from people laughing. I truly like we'll go up to two people and laugh like they're just like they're watching a movie together, like loud. It is. And I remember even as a kid being like, "This doesn't really feel right. I don't know."
Sounds Protestant.
Everything. We used to have a priest who would put up the peace sign with his fingers, and he would walk up and down the aisles and wave at everybody at that point, which would take like 10 minutes. It took time, and that's just one aspect of it. People make up. We used to have a priest. I almost said his name. I don't want to do that. Right after so again, it's different from the Novus Ordo from now, but the people would receive communion, and we would go back to our pew, and then he would go back, and that would be you're gonna think I'm making this up. That would be where his joke of the day was. So he would always tell and not a joke like knock knock who's there, but like a story of a joke. And that would be in that slot, and then he would finish his joke, everybody would laugh, and then he would kind of crack up and say, "The Lord be with you." You end it. This is everywhere. You can go. Bishop Sanborn always says that he goes on YouTube and watches a live Novus Ordo every now and then for some sanctification, and it's so bad. People need to do that.
Well, and I think you made a good point earlier that, so I mean, people might say, well, yeah, everywhere might have liturgical abuses, but you made a good point because this doesn't get fixed anywhere, right? This is overall. This doesn't go up the line. It's not like every now and then a priest gets smacked on the hand. This is
correct.
What the Novus Ordo is. Now, some places, as you said, can be more conservative and a little less on the abuse.
Yes.
But in general, it is certainly overall allowed to do this, to abuse the liturgy, which clearly shows you it is not a divine liturgy, right? I mean,
And
or
I
at
could
least the
even
priests don't consider it divine.
I could actually attest to, maybe I'm sure other people have experience as well if they want to put it in the chat. The more, this is, I'm talking Novus Ordo, the more beautiful or ornate the church, the better your experience usually is. Um, in churches that look like you are in who knows what, like a Masonic hall, a lot more abuse there. I've gone
Who
to a
would have
few
thought?
churches that were actually quite striking because they're old. They're from 1900. They're built authentically Catholic, and a little bit quieter in there, or a bit more people who might veil, for example. You'll see different. It definitely correlates with how the church looks, and I think another point, Kev, too. If we talk about people who actually go back, people don't remember either that sometimes being a sedevacantist is not easy. People miss a lot of social
Sure.
time. People miss a lot of. I mean, my drive to mass, uh, y- things have moved and all of that, but it went from 3 to 4 minutes to 1 hour.
Yeah.
Um, times, we used to have a basilica near here that maybe 10, 15 minutes away from me at the time that had 8 services on Sunday. I talk about, and not only that, but they were quick, 40 minutes maybe. Um, not much of a time sucker from your day. You are not really occupied by mass. Um, but just, I think people lack the feeling of belonging into. They crave unity. People crave. We do too. We. It is very painful to not have a pontiff.
Hmm.
People crave that, and there's some sort of, I guess you could say, comfort, even though you might have to bite your tongue, and saying that Leo is the Pope, and we're all united to him, and we're all one another, and that's fine. I remember, I'm just seeing the comments here. I remember I did not see anybody veil in my churches until I was in my early 20s. And I wrote a friend about that, and I said, "Hey, this woman I went to this church, and she had like a cloth over her head. What was that?" And my friend wrote back, "Was it a Novus Ordo that you went to?" And I said, I don't know what that means. I'm just Catholic. I don't know what a Novus Ordo is. And people have no idea. So to think, as you just said, none of the stuff is corrected. Nobody cares. Do you really think that they're here to root out heresy or to root out? Come on, you've got to get real. Truly.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I think it's interesting when you see, some of the arguments of these people who are leaving quote unquote sedevacantism, and I do understand that you just said we don't have a pope, which is a terrible situation. It is not good. It is an evil. We do not have a head. There are other issues. We don't have unity primarily because we don't have a pope, and our bishops fight amongst themselves, and they don't always recognize each other. And there are plenty of issues
Right.
in this situation, but the situation is because we are in the great apostasy. We have no pope, and so of course it's chaos. It's like, well, what do you expect? I mean, it's kind of a strange thing
Mhm.
that I think we expect just everything to just, it's like just imagine, okay, I'm a father of three, and
Mhm.
and someone just comes in here and shoots me in the head, and the family just keeps on la la la, yeah, it's going good, it's fine, no problem. No, the father's gone then. Yeah, come on, people. We have to understand the
Right.
situation we're in. We have to pray for a pope as soon as can possibly be. And I think that I talked to one of the guys at WM Review recently, and he made a really good point.
Mm.
I think that we need to maybe cool it a little bit in trying to figure out the issues, and just more understanding our faith. Understand what
Mhm.
is the Catholic Church. It's not our
And
issue to figure out how to have a new pope. It's just not. So why are we fighting over it? It's silly in the end.
another point too that I thought of while you were saying that was the Catholic faith was never ever taught from the pulpit. I never, and I can't put this into words. I can't. This is again one of those moments where I can't truly articulate what it's like, but these sort of things are not being taught. And I remember the first time I ever went to something out of diocesan was with the Institute of Christ the King. And I remember going there for the very first time, felt a little bit intimidated, I guess, because I remember thinking like, wow, these are the these are the real trads. This is the height of Catholicism. And the sermon that night, I believe it was a Holy Day of Obligation. The sermon that night was on sanctity and virtue. And I never heard that, Kev, in decades. I had that. To me, was like, now I knew it because I studied, and I would get old catechisms, and I thought that this is what a Catholic does. They familiarize themselves with the faith. No, the sermons were always usually stories, or I should say homilies. Homily and sermons are two different things. Usually, people who don't know, a homily is typically a commentary or a teaching of the readings or the gospel of the day. A sermon is more so you're teaching a lesson on the faith. And even the homilies we more so received were not at all Catholic interpretation of of what the scripture said. I could think of a priest, I won't say his name, but I was convinced after hearing a handful of his homilies on the gospel readings of the week that he did not believe that Christ was God. I am pretty convinced. He would say Christ was a very smart guy, kind of a genius, and other things led me to believe that. So hearing these actual Catholic sermons from so-called traditionalist clergy was very shocking to me. I was just completely blown away. So they're not taught it. The reason for the real presence, belief in the real presence being so low, is because absolutely nothing in the Novus Ordo religion teaches you that it is. Um, Kev, in the mass, when the priest utters the words "Hocus enim corpus meum," there's three bells, and there's the genuflection, right? The priest bends over, he announces the words of consecration, he genuflects, then he lifts up the host, and the church does that. The priest lifts up the host to protest the heretics who deny the true presence. He places the host back on the corporeal, and then he genuflects again. There's none of this in the Novus Ordo. They just stand there. Uh, there's no reverence indicated whatsoever. So why would people believe that? There's nothing to signify that at all.
Yeah, no, and ultimately, that's the question, right? I mean, in the liturgy, it's just part of it. I mean, that's a small part of it, honestly. As we've
Yes.
said, I mean, once you get into the actual doctrine of it, which I have to plug a show we got coming. Actually, we have two really good shows starting this week. We have one with Father Benedict Hughes talking about unity in the church, and two encyclicals, Satis Cognitum from Leo the 13th and Mortalium Animos from Pius the 11th. That'll be really good. That'll be this week. And then we're doing an entire series about the documents, the actual documents of Vatican II with Louis Verrecchio. That will start also this week. We'll do that. Hopefully almost a show per week. So, so it's going to be really good stuff, because I think that's, again, Matt, it's not just the liturgy, it's the actual heart of belief, of truth, of Catholicism that has been completely shucked away.
There are people, Kev, and I will make this general statement. There are people who are going back to the Novus Ordo religion because they are saying that the documents of Vatican II are being misrepresented, that we're not reading them, we're over critiquing them. So to that, I say, remember, the magisterium interprets itself, right? Wait until they see just how this magisterium is going to interpret the Vatican II documents. It is dreadful. Ha! I don't mean to laugh, but it's just, wait until the hierarchy, you wait until a lot of these people see just how the hierarchy truly interprets and lives out, because that's their job, lives out these documents. It is a clown show, underlined. As Mr. Davis said as well, there are some reverent Novus Ordos. I've been to them. Yeah, there's still many, many, many terrible things, and that gets to the heart of the question as well. Father Cicada has a great book on it. The liturgy in and of itself, the Novus Ordo Missae, is a non-Catholic liturgy, but that's another.
Yeah, and I hope, again, to get into that with Louis Verrecchio, because I think that if you actually get into the documents, and if you actually start comparing Vatican II documents with, say, Leo the 13th or Pius the 11th, you see this ain't the same, folks. This is not the same. These are not the same teachings. Look at, again, about church unity. They don't teach the same thing now, Matt. They're different. You have false ecumenism. You have religious indifference. It completely contradicts the teachings of previous popes, which cannot be. The teaching of the church is one. That is literally one of the marks of the church. And I saw that another argument for one of these folks who's leaving, because they're saying, well, what are the 4 marks of the church? It's like, are you kidding? You're going to the Novus, and that's why I say, Matt, again, I would rather be an atheist. I really would. I just like, how could you possibly go back to that? You're saying that the Novus Ordo has the 4 marks of the church? Are you kidding me? And real quick, I know we don't want to get into details, but I also heard the argument that apparently Sede A clergy don't care about souls, and that is straight up, that is slander and ridiculous. And I mean, I'm sorry, some of these people need to be called out. I'm not going to say who it was, but it's absurd. If you ever even talked with one of these priests actually, or saw what they did, or saw their calendar, or seen where they drive to save souls, give me a break, man.
And to think, again, the experience will say it all. Wait until the people, whoever they might be, and again, I'm sure there's some who I might know personally. Wait until they see the level of concern that Novus Ordo clergy have for souls. Wait until they're told that that's not a sin anymore. Wait until they're told. It's just a full blown. I use the term clown show. It's even worse. The concern is at the bottom. Everybody is saved. Ask your local Novus Ordo, write him, email him, your local Novus Ordo church. How many souls do you think go to hell? And they'll either not answer the question, or they'll probably say, well, none of them. Everybody goes to heaven.
Well, was it Bergoglio or JP2 who said every Hindu should be a good Hindu, every Buddhist should be a good Buddhist?
Mother Teresa.
Mother Teresa. That's heresy. That's not Catholic. It's absurd. As you said, it's a clown show. Did you see, Matt, in Austria? I think it may have been in Vienna. They had a performance of like ballet where they were also swinging around chickens with diapers on.
Sure, why not? I did see highlights. Sure, it's fun.
Yeah, exactly. So it shows you. And again, what happened? What happened to these people? What happened to the quote unquote priest who allowed this? Nothing. Because
no.
They don't care. Not only do they not care, that in the hierarchy, very many of them are surely satanic.
How many times I can remember like opening up the door, like peeking through and kind of thinking to myself, what am I walking into here when I walk? Because you truly don't know. Yeah. I have seen dancing masses. I've seen them. Now people might say, well, that's not like that where I am. All right, maybe not. They're not among the majority, but the potential of you walking in on one, really, it exists. It's there, and I have just and the dress. Wait until these people go to a Novus Ordo church and they see how people are dressed on Sunday. I mean, there's no redeeming quality. There's not one. There's none at all. And just to think, that this is the perfect society that Christ left us. To think that this is the without spot or wrinkle church that St. Paul wrote about, as these people live their false ecumenism, and it doesn't really matter. Christians are Christians, all of that. As Pope Gregory the 16th called religious liberty and insanity. So yeah, I see Sonia's comment here. They're not in the majority. People will say, yeah, I've never seen that, or I've never seen a puppet mass. They do happen. And you might be there might not be any even in your city, but the chance of you maybe traveling or walking into one certainly exists, and absolutely nothing is done about it. I have seen beautiful basilicas, beautiful, like glorious architecture, be profaned with drums and laser lights and television screens. And what's the matter with that? It just
look at the dancers, the half-naked dancers around Bergoglio. I mean, he had that all the time. You have witch doctors. Look at Assisi. Again, guys, this is what again, these Twitter folks are going back to. This is your answer? I'm sorry, go be an atheist. God doesn't exist. If you really come to the conclusion that that is the Catholic Church after everything you know, and
Right.
again, I really mean this. I'm not speaking for everyone. Not everyone knows all of this stuff. But for the stuff, if you argue these things for years, you're arguing these things, and all of a sudden you just say, "Oh, actually, no, he's my pope." Based on what? What changed? Nothing changed. You really want to go to that abomination?
I'm curious.
I'm sorry, I just don't.
I'm curious. I'm curious, and this was something that crossed my mind as I've been thinking this through over the week. Did these people? Is Bergoglio? Was he a true pope? And what will their position be once he's canonized? Because that is coming. So I think a lot of these people had a problem with him. I think he was the issue here, and now everything is okay. So they think with Leo. What happens when he's declared a saint? That is for sure coming.
Well, you know already they don't care about. I mean, this is the recognized.
Yeah,
I think that goes deep. That goes real deep. That goes even probably to your Novus Ordo types, where it's like, yeah, are they really infallible? Yeah, I don't think they even care anymore.
The theology just starts to fall apart.
Yeah, it's a sad thing. So, and when you start doing that with teachings of the church, then what's the point? What's the point if it's all just kind of like, meh? Be a good Hindu. Okay, great. In fact, cool. Then I'll go and worship a cow and have multiple wives, and I'm still going to heaven, right? It's a joke, man. It's a joke. I mean, it doesn't make even logical sense. Even if you take out the entire theology of it, just logically, it doesn't make sense. You can't say all religions are equal. It's insane.
You can read Mother Teresa's words, and in fact, you don't even have to worry about them being falsified, because I have an old book of hers from forever ago now, where you can read her say things like, so and so was dying, and we brought them a Hindu priestess to give last rites because it's all the same anyway. Or when we're treating these people or caring for them that have fallen into our care, we respect their religion. We don't talk to them about Christ. Like we let them be.
Don't you dare proselytize.
Right. And what a perfect opportunity it would be. Not saying the church has always condemned forceful, never. And the church has never done that. But how inviting it would be to have these people in your care as a Catholic nun to talk about, I don't know, Catholicism. And they made it very clear that that's not their job. They will not do that. In fact, if you go to the Missionary of Charity, their website, it's in their mission statement that we do not engage in this sort of activity. You're a Catholic nun, supposedly. You're caring for people as human persons materially, but what an opportunity to care for their soul. And this sort of teaching was not only accepted by the Vatican, but it was paraded around. Yeah. Her mission was gold to John Paul II, who took no issue in anything that she said. If this were a true pope, she would have had to immediately have been corrected on this.
Right. It's not like you can go around as a nun or a nurse and go around and force feeding Catholicism.
Of course,
like, I won't treat you unless you become a Catholic. Obviously not. But you can't support them in a false religion. You are just supporting them in their path to hell. It's insane.
Right. The conversations were forbidden. It's not like they said, hey, by the way, let's talk. Like, no, you could not do that. You had to focus solely on the temporal. If somebody asked, it's all in their statements. You can read this. If somebody asked for, then you can. But they were not going to initiate that. They respected you in your religion. It was Pope Pius VII, I believe, who said that by this belief, the mystical bride of Christ, the Holy Roman Catholic Church, is set on the same par as heretics, as satanic religions. We can never tolerate this. That is the authentic Catholic position on this. It's a totally, which is why we say it's a totally different religion. It's not the same, and the Catholic religion cannot change. We know St. Paul said in Galatians, if anyone preaches of religion differently than what we are teaching here, than what we as the hierarchy of the teaching church teaches you, let him be anathema. It is false. Do not listen to him. The church cannot give you a different gospel than what it gave back then. That's the whole point of that's the whole point. Otherwise, as you said, Kev, all this is false. It's all a joke. It's all wrong. And the church never had the divine assistance. God is not real. It just all collapses.
Well, and what I do want to say before we go too, that these issues, and I mean, part to our title of this podcast is that these issues are not as prevalent in actual parishes. Sure, you see, I'm sure people have their own problems and go back or leave and go to Orthodox, etc. But I think that part of the issue with like these people who I kind of even considered friends, I'm not saying they're not, I don't hate them or anything anymore, but I got to step back a little bit and be like, okay, what on earth does this person even think anymore? But I think part of it is it's so easy to become kind of sola scriptura, like sola twittura, type of thing. It's like you all of your
what is
your
that?
Beliefs in sola twittura, you like
sola extra.
Extora, yeah. All of your beliefs and everything you're learning is something that you're reading on the internet, or you're reading an article about it, and I just think it's a dangerous line because Sede Kantism has what does it mean? What is that? Like literally, the actual definition is it just means we believe the seat is empty, right? And I think that's where we stand. I think that's the unity. Yep, it's empty. Now what? And that's the question, and that's a hard question. There are a lot of there aren't many answers, and I think there are some tough questions, like where is the hierarchy of the church? And I think that's a good question, and I don't know if we have to have the answer, because we do know that the issue actually is that there cannot be a pope because of what they have done. So the rest we have to wait in God's time, or our clergymen have to figure it out. But for us, we have to be comfortable in the fact that that man in Rome cannot be the Roman pontiff. He cannot be the voice of Christ on earth. Can't. And I'm comfortable with that. And I can say the rest, I can have a bit of a mystery as long as I am not following those men to hell.
Yeah. And I think, going back to my experiences and all that, I think we were kind of told or taught that the Pope is just there. He's nothing, he's special, but he's nothing what the actual Catholic teaching on the papacy is. You can have a good pope, a bad pope, a nice pope, a evil pope. It's not really that big of a deal. He doesn't do anything. He's like the British monarch. They're there to sit on the throne and wave to the people. Once you actually dig into the books and see what the Pope is and does and what he means to the church, that's when your whole mindset begins to shift, and you actually see the glory of the papacy, which is of God. And it's why all of the and not only when you start reading these things, not only do you see magisterial teachings on the papacy, but you see how the early church, how the fathers of the church, how these great saints were papists, how they were ultramontanists, and how many good, authentic men who have lived throughout the centuries have called ultramontanism, this hyperpapalism, all these sort of terms, authentic, true Catholicism. That's the side you want to be on. And in fact, just one final point here: the book. Actually, Mario told me this when I was talking to him some time ago. The book "Liberalism is a Sin." The Father Salvani, he's a I think he was Spanish. I'm blanking. I believe he wrote this great work, "Liberalism is a Sin," and he talks about how he calls himself the term ultramontanism. Authentically Catholic. He interchanges those two words all the time. There was a priest who reported him for the book, saying that this is a little bit extreme, like he's making the papacy, the Pope, out of some demigod and all of these things. And the book got reported to Rome by this priest, and I believe it was Leo the 13th, who not only suspended and punished the priest who reported him, but he endorsed the book. So it just goes to show you that the magisterium has constantly taught this is the attitude a Catholic ought to have. We're not making this up. It's not that we're choosing one side over the other. It's that this is the attitude that a Catholic must have towards the Pope. And so as faithful Catholics, we don't have to think on our own. We simply follow it. We adhere to it. That is what I must believe. And it makes it so much easier. And on that note, Kev.
And it's something just real quick
go
to pitch again, the video with Father Benedict, which I think we'll publish tomorrow or Wednesday. And he talked about that, how the unity of the church, our unity right now is not with one any the other. It's not with me and Matt. It's not with Bishop Sanborn, Bishop Pivarunas. It is with the church. We are in union with the teachings of the universal church from all time. That is the unity. And we all agree on what we have to agree on. Now, some things we don't agree on. Say, again, like someone brought up the thesis. Okay, yeah, not everyone agrees on that, but it doesn't matter. That is an accidental. That is not a necessary part of our beliefs. That is our unity. And so I think we need to, some of these things, again, that's why I think we need to read and listen to podcasts by someone like Father Benedict, because they help us to literally understand the words. We hear these words all the time. Oh, there's no unity. Oh, where's the hierarchy? And you know what happens when you actually ask a smart priest? You'll actually get an answer. And sometimes the answer is not what you want, but you'll actually get an answer because they've thought about these things. They've had people ask these things. So please, please, please watch this video with Father Benedict about church unity. It's fantastic. And then listen to the 2 encyclicals. And again, stay tuned for the podcast with Louis Verrecchio, because I'm telling you guys, this is going to be a really good series that's going to open eyes about the evils of the Second Vatican Council, which again, if I say it's an evil council, then, well, can't be an actual council of the church. So on that note, Matt, as always, it's been a pleasure. I appreciate it. And I didn't get too heated. I was a little nervous. I'm like, boy, some of these people on Twitter they boil my blood. They say the things that I'm just like, no. You say the clergy don't care about souls. Oh my gosh, I just can't even. Yep. Anyway, but everyone, please like, share, comment, subscribe, all of that stuff. We'll try to be back here next week, maybe Monday evening or maybe Monday morning. We'll have to see. I'll talk to Matt about it. Again, we do like the comments. So it was fun having you all here. Sonia, especially, was here the whole night. Sonia, take care of yourself. And Sonia, definitely make sure you check out the rest of these podcasts, because I know if you're going still to the modern masses, or if you're going to the Novus Ordo Church, I don't blame you. I think everyone has their own story. Go check it out. CMRI.org. I also recommend that one. CMRI.org. There's almost limitless material for the whole position and a lot of things that can be learned there. So everybody, we appreciate you, Matt. We'll see you next week.